Deep within the fractured canyons of the Shara Mountains, the desert sun bakes the sandstone cliffs into bruised shades of ochre and crimson. The air is bone-dry, carrying only the scent of dust and the memory of rain. In this unforgiving expanse of present-day Jordan, an ecosystem defined by extreme scarcity, life seems an impossible proposition. Yet carved directly into the sheer rock faces, the remnants of a thriving metropolis emerge from the shimmering heat. How did a society not merely cling to existence, but flourish in one of the most hostile environments on Earth? The answer lies buried beneath the sands of Petra, the legendary capital of the Nabataeans. Emerging as nomadic traders, they transitioned into urban dwellers who fundamentally redefined the parameters of survival. They did not conquer the desert through brute force, nor did they attempt to impose foreign agricultural paradigms upon the parched earth. Instead, they observed the erratic rhythms of the land, cultivating a profound understanding of hydrology that transformed barren canyons into an oasis of staggering wealth and power. The primary existential threat in this region was paradoxically twofold: relentless drought interspersed with sudden, devastating inundations. When rain finally arrives in the Wadi Musa, it does not fall gently. It cascades across the impermeable rock, gathering terrifying momentum as it funnels through narrow gorges. These torrential events could easily wipe out settlements, scouring the canyon floors with violent force. The challenge was not just finding water, but surviving its wrath. To navigate this perilous dynamic, the civilization developed a sophisticated system of flash flood management. They recognized that the destructive energy of the torrents could be intercepted, pacified, and ultimately harvested. Their engineers carved elaborate networks of diversion dams directly into the living rock of the canyons. These barriers were not designed to halt the water entirely, but to bleed off its kinetic energy, guiding the violent surge into controlled, deliberate pathways. Archaeological evidence reveals the astonishing precision of this hydraulic mastery. At the entrance to the Sikh, the narrow gorge leading into the heart of the city, remnants of a massive diversion dam still stand. This structure effectively rerouted the seasonal deluge away from the main thoroughfare and into a dedicated tunnel known as the Muthlim. By meticulously calculating the trajectory and volume of the floods, they protected their civic center while capturing millions of gallons of runoff. The taming of the floodwaters was a monumental act of ecological alchemy. The roar of destruction was silenced, transmuted into the quiet, life-giving pulse of the city. Water, once a harbinger of death, became a sacred thread weaving together the fabric of their society. This transformation required more than mere technical skill. It demanded a worldview that revered the elusive element, treating every drop as a communal treasure rather than a commodity to be hoarded. Once the violent surges were subdued, the focus shifted to meticulous distribution. The Nabataeans engineered vast, gravity-fed irrigation networks that spanned miles across the rugged terrain. They carved open channels along the canyon walls, precisely graded to maintain a steady, gentle flow. The gradient was calculated with such exactitude that the water moved fast enough to prevent stagnation and evaporation, yet slow enough to avoid eroding the delicate infrastructure. Where open channels were vulnerable to the scorching sun, they buried miles of interlocking clay pipes beneath the earth. These subterranean arteries were a marvel of ancient engineering, designed to maintain hydraulic pressure across undulating landscapes. The joints were sealed with a specialized mortar, ensuring that not a single drop was lost to the thirsty sand. This unseen circulatory system delivered life directly to the heart of the urban center, feeding public fountains, lush gardens, and vast agricultural terraces. Excavations have uncovered the remnants of these terraced gardens, revealing a localized form of agroforestry that defied the arid climate. By channeling water to specific stepped plots, They created microclimates capable of sustaining olive groves, vineyards, and fruit orchards. The soil itself was carefully managed, enriched with organic matter to retain moisture. This was not a struggle against nature, but a highly orchestrated collaboration, turning the harsh topography into an engine of agricultural abundance. The success of these green sanctuaries relied entirely on the hidden reservoirs that dotted the landscape. To achieve true water security, the society constructed thousands of subterranean cisterns, meticulously carved into the bedrock and lined with impermeable hydraulic cement. These dark, cool chambers protected the harvested rainfall from evaporation and contamination. Some were small, serving individual households, while others were cavernous vaults capable of sustaining the entire population through years of drought. This localized control over hydration elevated the city from a remote outpost to a dominant nexus of the incense trade route. Caravans emerging from the unforgiving wastes knew that within the rose-red cliffs lay guaranteed respite. The ability to offer water to thousands of camels and merchants was a currency far more valuable than gold. Their engineering prowess directly translated into immense geopolitical influence, proving that ecological harmony could be the foundation of an empire. The silent endurance of these catchment systems speaks to a philosophy of permanence. They did not build for a single generation, extracting resources until the land was depleted. They designed an infrastructure that integrated seamlessly with the geological reality of their home. The reservoirs, the channels, the terraced slopes were all expressions of a profound covenant with the desert, an acknowledgement that human survival depended on honoring the limits of the natural world. Today, as we confront escalating crises in arid environments globally, the ancestral methods of Petra offer more than mere historical curiosity. Modern municipalities struggle with the same paradox of sudden floods and prolonged droughts, often responding with concrete monoliths and energy-intensive desalination plants. We attempt to force water to obey our demands, relying on brute technological force rather than ecological alignment. Our contemporary approach frequently treats stormwater as a nuisance to be expelled into the sea as quickly as possible, while simultaneously draining ancient aquifers to water unsustainable crops in the desert. This adversarial relationship with hydrology stands in stark contrast to the ancient wisdom carved into the Shara Mountains. We have forgotten how to listen to the topography, how to catch the rain where it falls, and how to value the slow, quiet storage of moisture in the earth. What can these ancient engineers teach us about resilience in the face of climate instability? The remnants of their civilization suggest a blueprint for decentralized passive water management. By reintroducing gravity-fed catchment systems, permeable urban surfaces, and localized cistern networks, modern cities could dramatically reduce their vulnerability to both flooding and drought. The principles of slowing, spreading, and sinking water into the landscape remain as valid today as they were 2 millennia ago. Implementing these strategies requires a fundamental shift in how we perceive our relationship with the environment. The Nabataean achievement was not merely a triumph of mathematics. It was a cultural triumph. Their society elevated the conservation of moisture to a civic duty, intertwining their spiritual life with the physical reality of their watershed. To adopt their techniques without adopting their reverence is to miss the core lesson of their survival. The wind that howls through the sick today carries the echoes of a people who knew how to turn stone into a sponge. Their legacy is written in the faint lines of aqueducts tracing the canyon walls, and in the dark, silent depths of forgotten cisterns waiting patiently for the rain. It is a story of profound intimacy with the earth, a testament to the beauty that arises when human ingenuity bows to the rhythms of nature. When we ignore these rhythms, we invite our own ruin. The collapse of many ancient societies can be traced to the moment they overreached, demanding more from the land than it could sustainably provide. The ruins of Petra stand not as a monument to hubris, but as a quiet reminder of what is possible when a civilization chooses adaptation over domination. The desert eventually reclaims everything, but it preserves the lessons of those who understood its secrets. Modern hydrologists studying these ancient catchments are continually astounded by their efficiency. Detailed surveys of the watershed reveal that even today, with minimal restoration, many of these original structures could still effectively capture and route seasonal rains. The bedrock was sculpted so perfectly that it continues to perform its intended function, channeling the scarce precipitation toward the parched valleys below. The math remains flawless, the geometry enduring. We stand at the threshold of a new era of scarcity, searching for technological salvation to a crisis of our own making. Yet the answers we seek may not lie in the speculative future, but in the deep past. The stones of the rose-red city whisper a truth we desperately need to remember. True mastery of the earth is not found in conquering it, but in understanding it so deeply that our presence becomes a sustaining force. The ancient principles of reciprocity still echo in the dry wadis. They remind us that water is the singular thread connecting all life, a sacred trust passed down through the ages. By embracing the forgotten hydraulic wisdom of the past, we might finally learn how to quench the thirst of our modern world without draining the well springs of tomorrow. The desert holds its breath, waiting for us to remember how to catch the rain.